Okay, great. It looks like you're ready to make your first, create your first program from scratch. Or maybe you're just interested in how Eclipse works. But either way, in this video, we are going to be going through how to create your first program from scratch using the Eclipse that we installed in an earlier video in part 1. So let's get started by opening Eclipse. Now I will tell you there are going to be a few things that we'll cover in more detail later. I'll kind of point those out, not too important. The focus here is going to be opening and creating your project and the basic framework for your programs, and then of course how to go ahead and compile them. And then at the end there's a problem that you could encounter with Eclipse, and I'll show you how to deal with that, like I said, at the end of the video. So you remember this screen from our installation video. Click on OK. And when our screen comes up, it may not have the welcome screen, but don't worry, we'll show you all that. Okay, so this is going to come all back up just like we left it back when we were testing our installation. Again, that was it had like a little automatic feature in there for doing that, and we're going to be doing it from scratch this time. However, this screen may not come up for you right away. It may be the welcome screen, so you can make that come up by going to help and then welcome. And you may actually just want to look at the welcome screen and check out some of these. But if it comes up like this, you just close that and then we're back to this. Also, it may come up to where your welcome screen is not here but everything else is blank. If that's the case, you can click right here and it will all come up and fill the screen. It's not filling the screen now because this welcome screen is here, so we'll click this again, make that go away, and cancel that. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to create the project, and of course there's more than one way to do this, but we're going to go to File, New, and select C++ Project. Now there is the one that we used from the install to test our installation, but this time we want empty project. And as you remember, do not select this one. Make sure that you select your correct compiler. And we're going to need to give our project a name, and it's a good idea to create your names. You can name it whatever you want, but name it something, you know, that has some meaning, but also to not have spaces in it. Now here I'm going to give you a big warning. Big warning. Let me just click a bunch here. Click a bunch. Yeah, give you a warning. The first time I tried to create this video, I'm going to call this my first program. Oh, see, I deleted it and neglected to delete that directory. Oh dear. Okay. Well, I'm going to call this my first program 2. Okay. But I will warn you, I removed it from here. My antivirus went nuts off of that file name. And so yours may as well. So you may want to name it something different than my first program. I'll explain a little more about the antivirus in just a bit, right before we compile for the first time. Okay, so we selected empty project and made sure we had the right compiler, and we selected our name. Now we can hit finish. Okay, so here's our new project. However, while it does have the includes, it does not have the source folder. So to create that, we need to right click and then go to New and select Source Folder. Now, just to help make sure you don't have any problems with the compiling, name this src, all in lowercase. Okay, we'll hit finish here. And so we have that, but we have no actual file. Now note up here, see with the little automatic thing there to test our installation, it created our source files. And also note here that they all end in .cpp. CPP is the extension for C++ source. So you recognize that CPP, the PP is ++. We need to create one of those. And so we'll right click again, and again New, but this time we want a source file. Okay, you can name this about anything that you want. If you want to name it after the project or whatever, it's going to be in this folder, this src folder. So in this case, it's not going to really make too much of a difference. But I'm actually in the Visual Studio video that's similar to this one. I called it main, okay, and .cpp. So we're going to call it main.cpp. And there we go. We have all of this here. This automatically adds some comments. I'll address that in a later video. That's kind of a nifty little feature. But let's get started. The very basic framework for a C++ program, you're going to need int, and then type main, and then open and close parentheses, and then open and close those. They're called braces, or a lot of times I'll call those curly brackets. Whatever, as long as you know what they are. They are curly brackets, and we'll actually put a couple of little spaces in there. So this int actually stands for integer, and we'll talk more about types in the not too distant future in the course. But main, this is what the compiler looks for. This is the entry point into your program. It says, okay, this is where it starts. And everything that's in these braces, now there's going to be stuff that's actually typed outside of it, but is essentially where your program is going to be, because it's going to start here and it's going to end here. So that is the structure, and you need to make sure you get that syntax right. It's int space main, open close parentheses, and then open and close the curly brackets. Now I did say that it was going to end here, so you need to go ahead and type in return 0. Okay, that's where this int kind of comes in. This stands for integer. That means it's going to come out. Once it leaves, it's going to leave with some type of integer value. If it leaves with 0, that means everything went fine. If you remember from the install video, it said terminated, exit 0. I can't remember the exact language. Exit 0. That's basically what it means there. So all of this right here is essentially your framework for your program. Okay, we can try to test this by compiling and running it, but before I do, like I said, I would mention more about the antivirus. If you remember from when we were testing these things, the antivirus popped up and said, and let me check this out, and it stopped it. Sometimes that can get very aggressive depending on your antivirus. So you can go in there and figure out ways to kind of say, well, don't do that with this, that, and the other. That can get kind of complicated. It is a personal choice if you want to deactivate your shields, your antivirus shields. I have them deactivated here. I was going to show you with it coming down, but like I said, it had such a fuss on when I tried before and called it my first program. It did not like in Eclipse, it will actually name your executable that, and it didn't every time I tried to build it. As soon as it tried to create the executable, the antivirus just went nuts. So I've got it turned off now, but again, let me make a bunch of clicks all over here. Big thing, if you do decide, which is on you to deactivate your antivirus shields, make sure you are not connected to the internet. We're not connected to the internet here, so just that as a point. Now, if you remember from when we were testing before, the first time, so we need some folders in here. We need to go ahead and set up how everything's going to be built. We need to click on the build all first. So it's going to do. So we got a debug folder now, and so we can now run. If you hold we've got several little projects over here in our workspace now. You can make sure and select. Did it not build correctly for some reason? It should have. Let's try again. Sometimes you need to save. Sometimes you'll need to save before you build. I think that's probably our issue there. Yeah, now we've got our binary. Yeah, okay, so make sure and save first. Sorry, I'm used to Visual Studio that automatically saves whenever you do stuff like that. So we need to save first and then build, and we need to build the first time so that we have all of that set up. Now, there we go. Let's see. There we go. I've got it selected over here and it's run. You can also select it. It should select underneath there. Well, go ahead and run this. Just mousing over it says my first program too. Gee whiz, it doesn't seem to be doing anything. Well, that's because our program doesn't have anything in it yet. If you look down here at the bottom, we do have our terminated exit value 0. Okay, so the program ran just perfectly fine, but it doesn't do anything. However, there is that exit value 0, so it did start and it did leave with 0, but we need to put some stuff in here for that to work. Now here comes one of those things that I was telling you about. We'll talk more about later, not too much later in the course, and another couple of topics away. But we need to have this in here, so just type it like I'm typing it here. Okay, you don't need a semicolon here. This is a preprocessing directive, and we'll explain more about that when we get there. Essentially, we're including it here now because that IO stream stands for input-output stream. It's actually going to let us put something out to the screen. So just type that in here. And then this is actually something you're going to want in essentially all of your programs. It's using namespace std for standard, and you need a semicolon after that. Now you may be wondering why, and it has an issue with that. Don't worry, we'll get that fixed in a minute. But there could be a very lengthy explanation that I would give to you why to do this, but here's the short one. This allows you to use shorthand when you're programming, and it's a shorthand that you and about everyone else is going to use. If you don't have this in here, every time you use something that's in the standard namespace, you're going to have to say it. You're going to have to say, you're going to have to type it, and you're going to have to type it a lot. So this just lets you use shorthand. Just keep in mind that you always need to have it in there, and always remember your semicolon, because it won't work correctly if you don't have the semicolon. Now, okay, so we need to add a statement here. This is again more that we'll cover later. Just type it like I'm typing it here. See out, and then 2 less than symbols, and then say, oh, inside the quotes there, my first program works. Let's put a couple of exclamation points there, and then after that we need a couple of other less thans right beside each other. I'm going to put an end L, and this is a good time to point this out. I've mentioned it a little earlier in the video. All C++ statements end in a semicolon. So a lot of times if you have some problems with syntax errors, it's because you just left out one of these little things. But note that there is one there and there is one there. So it's something good to go ahead and introduce here now, that semicolons are leaving one off out of a bunches of line of code is not exactly uncommon. All right, so we're about ready to do this. It's not liking our using namespace standard right here, but we're going to go ahead and try to redo it and see if it gives us errors. We're going to have to fix it if it does. It does. Oh, no. It worked. Yep, see. All right. Oh, sorry about it. Yeah, if I get too excited on the microphone, there's a filter, a video filter that's used that'll make it crack a little bit. Anyway, sorry, I just got excited. I'm like, yes, that did. Go ahead and fix it. All right. So when it went through and rebuilt it, it recognized all of that, and so everything was fine. And down here, it did terminate, exit value 0. My first program works. So that's excellent. And if you remember from the install, you can actually go over here and click maximize, so that you've got a much bigger screen, because as your programs get bigger, you're going to have more and more stuff here, and you're going to want to see more than just now. To get back, don't hit minimize, just hit restore, and we'll go back to this. You're going to have more than just these few lines, so you're going to want to do that. Okay, restore, and again, these are grayed out now, but if you're using Eclipse, good idea to get in the habit of saving some stuff. Apparently it saved all this fine, but just to be on the safe side. Now, I said that there could be some problems. That you can end up with this configuration. It's really easy for you to get to have several instances of this running. In other words, if we run this, well, in this one it's not, it's because it's terminated. But if, let's say that there's something and it's waiting on something, and I'm going to type some of that in just very quickly. And again, we'll cover this stuff. Don't worry about exactly what this means. Basically, what I'm doing here is creating a couple of lines here where it will wait, where it's waiting for some input from the user. We'll cover all that later, but this is just to demonstrate something about the IDE and a problem that you can encounter. So let's try to run this again, and it's asking, okay, see it, so it's saving and all that kind of stuff. And then there we go. My first program works, but in actuality it's waiting for something here. So I'm just going to enter 1. Note here it does not say terminated. Okay, but once I enter that 1, it will return 0, and it says terminated down here. Now the problem can occur. We're going to run this one more time here. It's easy to do in Eclipse. It's easy to do, as opposed to say like Visual Studio, is that you can end up with different instances running very, very easily. So this one is running. Now let's make some changes, and I'll just add another int, some int. Okay, that's basically just to change the program. So what happens then is we'll go back and we'll try to run this. Oh, let's save it. Let's save it first, just to make sure I can. Oh, there we go. There's the errors. Now you might say, well, that says that's warnings. We'll get to that. The problem is here. You can see cannot open output file, permission denied. So if you ever come into that error message, it can be pretty frustrating if you don't understand why it's not letting you write your executable. And now this has this, and it says, well, it's unused variable. That's not what's causing the problem. What's causing the problem is the last time we ran our program, it's actually still running. So here is how to check for it. I'll show you a couple other little things related to that. Oh yeah, that other one's still running, so it's not going to let you rewrite the program while it's running. That's the problem. We made changes, and it's like, so if you come across that, you've got, let's see, I think it's this one with the little screen. Hopefully you can see that. If you click on that down arrow, it's got this right here. Okay, that's actually, see, it doesn't say terminated in front of it. If we click on that, see, it's still waiting for us to type something in. So if you click here and see that that you've got one that doesn't say terminated in front of it, you say, oh, okay, maybe that's what let's see, yes, where it says cannot open the output. If you come into a problem like that, this is why. So it's running. So you could go ahead and, like I did before, go ahead and type that input. But here's the other thing. Sometimes your program gets stuck. There's a lot of different reasons that it can, and you can't just type something and get out of it. It's just stuck. You've got some type of logical error in there, and it's just, it will not quit. So if you need to get out of that, click the little red box. Okay, click the red box. So it's like a stop button, and it says terminate. And so now this is terminated. It should not have an exit value. Well, maybe it's just because it was waiting on something. So a lot of times when you terminate it that way, it will not have an exit value. It'll have some other number there, like a -1 or something. But we can go back to here and look at our consoles. So now, see, it does say terminated. Okay. as you might guess, you could end up with a whole lot of these little things saying terminated. Well, here's the way, as you keep you know, running them over and over and over again. If you run into that problem where you have a whole bunch that say that they're terminated, there you go, remove all terminated launches. So that takes it out of there. Now we're back to this problem. So what we want to do, we may have to build from scratch over here, but let's try running this way. Aha! See, so now it runs. Even with the little sum int in there, it still runs fine. And so we can just, there we go, and now we're terminated. So everything's working fine. So I did want to mention that it's because it's part of the IDE interface, and it's not a syntax error. It's just a thing when you're using the IDE, you can end up very easily with this interface trying to compile a program, and it won't let you because you've already got an earlier version still running. And again, you can check those by going here and looking for ones that aren't terminated. Okay, and then to terminate them, this one is terminated, so it's grayed out, but this would be red, and you could click on that, or you could just get out of it. But again, sometimes you'll be stuck in the program, can't get out. If that ever happens, you can click the red X for terminate. Okay, so that covers everything. Let's do a real quick review. We started here with new C++ project, empty project, made sure this was right. We created or typed in our project name. I'm not going to create that now. Cancel. Then we came here and said new, and we created a new source folder, and we named that src. Okay, then once we did that, we right clicked on it. So right clicked on this to get to the new and the source folder. Once we created that, we right click on the source folder to go to new, and created the source file, and it's going to be in here because we right clicked on there, and we typed in main.cpp, include the extension, and then we had that. And then we came to our empty little screen, or actually had some nifty little stuff up there. And remember that int main, parentheses, and then the curly brackets, that's where your program begins and ends. To end, we made sure to write in the return 0. Okay. Then we included this so we could do some input output. We'll be talking about that a lot more later. And then this, you're going to want this pretty much in all of your programs, at least where your main is, so that you can use that standard namespace shortcut. And then we put in some other stuff to make sure that it would run. And then we talked about the things down here, how to get out of programs that are still running. Okay. All right. So I think we're good. Again, you'll probably want to make sure everything is saved before you exit, but we can now exit, and we're all good. Congratulations on creating your first program from scratch in Eclipse. This concludes another video for Introduction to Programming with C++, brought to you by LogiKomp. You can access the full course by going to the course homepage at logikomp.com/introcpp. While we are proud to offer this course free of cost to individuals, we do ask that if you continue to use the course, that you support its production and maintenance by making at least a small purchase from LogiKomp Domains and Hosting. You can pick up a custom domain, renewable annually, for around $10 at logikomp.com/hosting. Thank you.